Growing up, I always thought we were just an ordinary family, neither wealthy nor poor. However, everything changed with the arrival of my younger sister, Eva, when I was 9. My parents' joy at her birth seemed to overshadow their interest in me, shifting their attention almost entirely to her. Gradually, they began to offload all the household chores onto me, a practice known to some as the young carer phenomenon, where children under 16 are burdened with responsibilities typically meant for adults. My early culinary attempts were met with criticism, as I had never been formally taught how to cook. Each meal I prepared was a battle, trying to please with limited skills and resources, facing continual disapproval. Despite these challenges, I persevered, educating myself with beginner cookbooks from the library and navigating through trial and error. My childhood was marked by these demands, and this pattern of neglect continued into my adulthood. When I visited to celebrate Eva's birthday at our parents' home, the day took a surprising turn. Eva, quite forcefully, took the birthday cake I had brought, and in the scuffle, the cake was destroyed, its form altered tragically. To my disbelief, my parents found humor in the chaos, their laughter echoing as they watched the scene unfold. This incident was further complicated by a stark realization. Since I had married and changed my last name, my family started treating me as an outsider. The once familiar warmth of family ties had cooled, replaced by a strange indifference. My sister even contradicted herself by accepting a gift from me, only to declare later that the celebration was for family only, prompting me to leave. Feeling alienated, I made the difficult decision to stop financial support to my family. Expecting some reaction of concern, I was instead met with laughter as they dismissed my decision as a mere joke. A month later, their attitudes shifted when they realized the gravity of my decision and demanded an explanation. Reflecting on my journey, from achieving excellent grades throughout school to securing a reputable job after university, I've realized the strength it took to overcome the neglect and responsibilities thrust upon me at a young age. My story, marked by resilience and survival, underscores the complexities of familial relationships and the profound impact they have on one's identity and emotional well-being. From a young age, the bulk of household responsibilities, cooking, cleaning, and laundry, fell squarely on my shoulders. Each morning, I would hang the laundry before school and rush to bring it in after classes, weather permitting. If it rained and the clothes got wet, somehow that was my fault too, despite not having access to a TV or any other means to check the weather forecast. At the time, I accepted these duties without question, though in hindsight, I recognized how excessive they were for a child. While handling these chores, I often envied my sister, who was clearly the favorite and led a more pampered life. Amidst this environment, I became adept at navigating my parents' expectations, striving to avoid reprimands and hoping for praise that, unfortunately, never came. Despite mastering the art of cooking and excelling academically, the feedback from my parents was invariably critical. Even a simple acknowledgement of a well-prepared meal was twisted into a backhanded compliment about my clumsiness. Achieving full marks on a test was dismissed with remarks that undermined the value of intelligence in women. One summer during elementary school, I undertook an independent research project that was selected to represent my school at a national contest. Eager to share this achievement with my parents, hoping it might finally win me some recognition beyond mere housework or grades, their reaction was disheartening. They scolded me for wasting time on the project when I could have been more useful around the house. By the time I finished middle school, I had resigned myself to the reality that seeking approval from my parents was futile. My sister Eva, witnessing this dynamic, began to look down on me. Despite her mediocre academic performance, she ridiculed my aspirations to attend university, echoing the sentiment that our financial situation wouldn't allow for such luxuries. Despite the opposition, I resolved that if I could secure admission to a state university, I would manage the tuition myself. After much pleading, they grudgingly allowed me to pursue higher education. University life, however, was far from the liberating experience I had hoped for. My parents refused to assist with tuition and even expected me to contribute to household expenses, despite knowing that my earnings from part-time jobs were earmarked for my education. This left me no choice but to sacrifice sleep and social life to balance work, studies, and home duties, depriving me of any fond memories of college. It was during this tumultuous time that I met John at my part-time job. He was the first person who genuinely seemed to appreciate and value me. After 1 year of dating, we got married when I was 28. Initially, my parents opposed the marriage, but I managed to convince them. Since then, John and I have built a life together, and I've kept a deliberate distance from my family home. Living with John has been a stark contrast to the environment I grew up in. For the first time, I felt valued and loved, a stark departure from the feelings of isolation and neglect that characterized my upbringing. This new chapter with John has allowed me to slowly heal from the scars of my past and redefine what family truly means to me. After a long hiatus, I decided to return to my parents' home for my sister's birthday. Holding a birthday cake and a gift, I rang the intercom. My sister, playing around, answered with a playful, "Who is it?" I urged her to stop joking and let me in quickly since I brought a cake and a gift. To my astonishment, she burst through the door, yanked the cake box from my hands, and hurled it at me, declaring in a half-serious tone, "I can't put anything in my mouth that someone else has brought because it's scary." The cake was ruined, its shape distorted by the impact. Behind her, my parents were doubled over in laughter, finding amusement in the spectacle of me covered in cake remnants. Amidst their laughter, they threw jabs about me being a stranger now because I had changed my last name after marriage. My sister chimed in, reinforcing the notion that a different last name meant we were no longer family. I was stunned by their cruel humor and the cold reception. Their laughter did not cease as they continued to mock me. Kate was always more of a housekeeper than a daughter, they joked. They even ridiculed my appearance, saying they had always hoped for a cute child, implying I was not. At that moment, I felt a chill of realization. Perhaps my affection for them had withered completely. These parents, whom I had once feared and revered, now seemed just pitiful and absurd to me. Despite their earlier taunts about family, my sister grabbed the gift I had brought, contradicting her earlier stance. My mother then told me to leave since they were celebrating with family only, dismissing me with a wave as if shooing an animal. Feeling alienated, I asked once more if I was no longer considered family, to which my father sarcastically questioned who I was, pretending not to recognize me. For over 22 years, I had strived to please such unreasonable people, and staying in that home felt increasingly like a mistake, almost as if I had been brainwashed. Finally, I declared that if they wished to treat me as a stranger, then we should do so consistently. I announced the end of any financial help I had been giving, a statement that prompted them to mock me further, accusing me of lying about my contributions and saying it was no wonder I was unloved. With their insults fading behind me, I walked away, feeling surprisingly unburdened. For years, I had sought their love and approval, but now, free from their toxic presence, I couldn't understand why I had ever thought it necessary. Returning home, my husband John, who always greeted me with praise and love, noticed my disheveled state but simply suggested I take a bath, showing his care by respecting my need for space. A month later, my estranged family showed up at our doorstep, angry and demanding explanations. They accused me of causing unspecified troubles and complained about not being able to afford private university tuition for my sister, who attended a prestigious institution that accepted students with moderate grades, unlike the state university I had attended through self-funding. Despite John's advice to avoid them, I faced their accusations, yet their irrational behavior only affirmed my decision to stay away. After years of keeping my distance, I returned to my parents' house for my sister's birthday, a decision motivated by familial obligation rather than desire. As I stood at the door, cake and gift in hand, my sister mockingly questioned my identity through the intercom. When she finally opened the door and saw it was indeed me, she snatched the cake and threw it at me, claiming she couldn't trust food brought by others. Behind her, my parents laughed, apparently amused by my misfortune. In their mockery, they pointed out my changed last name since marrying and claimed it estranged me from the family. The whole scene left me in shock, the parents and sister I once knew now treated me like a complete outsider. Despite this, I kept my composure and tried to reason with them about the financial contributions I had been making to the household. I explained that I had regularly deposited money into a household account under my father's management to cover not just general expenses, but also the cost of food, as I was often the one cooking. When I decided to get married, my parents initially objected, fearing they would lose their convenient housekeeper. To ease their resistance, I had agreed to double my financial support, a promise they conveniently forgot once my sister's tuition issues arose. It turned out that my sister had been attending a private university with moderate effort, supported by tutoring that didn't require her to lift a finger at home. She never understood the burden of household chores or part-time work. During our conversation, my parents tried to blame their financial mismanagement on the cessation of my contributions, but the truth soon surfaced. My mother had mistaken my contributions for my father's earnings, and he had thought they were for my sister's supposed part-time job. Even more astonishing was the revelation that my grandfather had been funding my sister's tuition, yet my parents still demanded more money from me, money that my mother had squandered on luxury goods. As the argument escalated among them, they tried to shift their tactics and suddenly began praising me, claiming how proud they were and that all their strict upbringing was justified because of my success. Just as they were attempting to coax me back into their lives with their newfound appreciation, my husband, John, intervened. He sternly reminded them that I was not a resource to be exploited. His assertiveness shocked my family, but it also emboldened me. Despite their protests and attempts to reconnect, John made it clear, our ties were severed and they should leave. As they reluctantly exited, Eva lingered, hinting at her ongoing tuition needs. But before she could elaborate, she was startled by John's firm stance and quickly retreated. In the days that followed, they didn't give up easily, appearing at our home and calling frequently. Despite these interruptions, I avoided further confrontations, even using alternate entrances and spending time away from home to evade Eva. One day, however, she caught me off guard and apologized, admitting her previous misconceptions about me, influenced by our parents. Her sudden apology, while unexpected, seemed disingenuous and gave me chills. It was clear she was still primarily concerned about her tuition payments. This encounter only affirmed my decision to maintain distance, protect my peace, and build a life with John, free from the manipulative dynamics of my family. I had long distanced myself from my family due to their relentless demands and lack of emotional support. However, after years of separation, I reluctantly returned to my parents' house for my sister's birthday. Upon my arrival, carrying a birthday cake and gift, my sister greeted me not with warmth, but by snatching the cake from my hands and throwing it at me. Her actions were followed by laughter from my parents, who mocked the change in my last name since my marriage, suggesting that I was no longer a part of the family. Despite their hurtful behavior, I attempted to remain calm and explain the situation, especially regarding the financial contributions I had been making to the family. Over the years, I had been the one managing the household expenses, often sacrificing my own needs to ensure that my sister could attend a private university without needing to work part-time like I had. However, as the discussion unfolded, it became clear that my mother had been misusing the funds meant for my sister's tuition on luxury items, leading to financial strain that they now expected me to alleviate. As the argument escalated, my family suddenly switched their tone, praising me for my academic and professional achievements in an attempt to manipulate me into resuming financial support. This encounter left me more resolved than ever to sever ties with them, a decision supported by my husband, John. He intervened when my sister began making threats and acting aggressively toward me, reaffirming that I was no longer just a financial resource for them to exploit. Following this incident, my parents and sister frequently appeared at our home, causing disturbances and demanding money. Their actions forced us to involve the police and apologize to our neighbors for the repeated disruptions. Recognizing the ongoing risk and the need for peace, John and I decided to move without disclosing our new location to anyone, not even our neighbors. Despite our precautions, my family continued to seek us out, even showing up at my in-laws' home, demanding to know where we had moved. They claimed that my independence was causing them financial hardship, appealing to my in-laws for sympathy. However, my in-laws, fully aware of my family's abusive history, firmly rejected their demands and offered me emotional support, reinforcing that they now considered me their daughter. This gesture of acceptance from my in-laws was incredibly moving, especially given the stark contrast to my own family's treatment. They provided the emotional solace that I had longed for, and with their support, John and I continued to build our lives free from the toxic influence of my parents and sister. Their refusal to disclose our whereabouts shielded us from further harassment, allowing us to maintain our safety and well-being in our new home. After a long absence, I reluctantly visited my parents' house for my sister's birthday. The reception was cold. My sister mockingly snatched the birthday cake I brought, throwing it at me, while my parents laughed, making snide remarks about my changed last name for marriage, suggesting I was no longer part of the family. They seemed to find amusement in the spectacle, solidifying my feeling of alienation. Despite their hostility, I explained my past financial contributions and sacrifices, which they conveniently ignored, choosing instead to praise me for my academic and professional success when it suited their agenda of manipulation. My husband John stood by me, affirming that I was not a resource for them to exploit. The confrontations escalated, with my family frequently showing up at our home, demanding money and causing disturbances, prompting us to involve the police and apologize to our neighbors for the disruptions. Recognizing the need for peace, John and I decided to move without disclosing our new location. Despite our precautions, my family continued their attempts to contact us, even confronting my in-laws, demanding to know our whereabouts and accusing us of causing them financial hardship. My in-laws, understanding my difficult past, supported us and firmly rejected their demands, offering me emotional support. This support from my in-laws was incredibly moving, especially given the contrast to my own family's treatment. They provided the emotional solace I had longed for, allowing John and me to build our lives free from the toxic influence of my parents and sister. Their steadfast protection and understanding reinforced our decision to maintain our distance and build a peaceful life together. It all felt like a distant past until my family confronted me again, questioning if I had been mistreated or brainwashed by my in-laws. My father gripped my shoulder firmly, and my mother, with feigned concern, pleaded for me to return home. My sister Eva added to the emotional plea with a friendly smile, urging me to reconsider our family bonds. Their insinuations that I was being poorly treated by my in-laws infuriated me. I raised my voice, ready to recount the countless times they had mistreated me, which made my mother panic and Eva flustered. Just as the situation escalated, my father shouted to end the confrontation, but at that moment, police officers appeared, summoned by my husband due to the commotion. My parents and Eva tried to downplay the scene as a minor domestic disagreement, quickly apologizing and insisting on the importance of family. Yet, it was clear to me that their apologies were shallow, driven by self-interest rather than genuine remorse. In the past, I might have been swayed by their emotional tactics, but having experienced true affection for my husband and in-laws, I could easily see through their facade. During the argument, my father accidentally struck a police officer trying to intervene, leading to their detention. Despite it being an accident, the situation highlighted the ongoing dysfunction within my family. As they were taken away, I informed them that my husband and I, supported by my in-laws, were moving away due to his job transfer, making any further visits from them pointless. Standing there with the support of my in-laws, I felt a profound sense of relief and validation for the decision to sever ties with my family. My husband, who had been initially hesitant, now fully supported this decision, and my father-in-law offered a kind smile, reinforcing the warm, supportive family environment I had longed for and now cherished. After enduring a challenging family situation fraught with dysfunction and misfortune, my life has taken a positive turn. My parents, plagued by illness, were forced to leave their jobs and struggled without access to adequate medical care. Additionally, the financial support from our grandparents for my sister Eva's tuition ceased, leading to her expulsion from university due to unpaid fees. Finding herself without many options, Eva moved to a rural area to work at a casino that offered employee housing. Unfortunately, the environment proved toxic for her, and she fell into a gambling addiction, spending most of her earnings at the casino itself. Meanwhile, my husband and I have been building a stable and joyful life in our new home. We are focused on our careers and maintain a healthy relationship with my in-laws, who live nearby. Together, we've started planning a future that balances personal and professional growth. Discussions about living arrangements have been positive and fruitful. We are pooling resources to invest in a duplex home. This new property, expected to be completed in about a year, will allow us to live close to my in-laws in a connected yet independent manner. Looking forward, we envision a harmonious life as a family of 5, fostering relationships that support each other's well-being and happiness, contrasting sharply with the turmoil of my past familial experiences.